What's an email subscriber actually worth to your farm? Not what they cost you, what they're worth. Today, I'm going to show you a simple metric that can completely change how you think about lead magnets, Facebook ads, farm tours, and growing your customer list. Let's get started.
Hey there, this is Corinna Bench, and welcome to the My Digital Farmer podcast. In today's market, it's not enough to just grow your product. You've got to know how to sell it too. Welcome to the My Digital Farmer podcast, where we reveal online marketing strategies and tips to help farmers like you get better and more confident at marketing. Learn how to find more customers, increase your sales, and build a strong brand for your farm.
Let's start the show. Well, welcome to episode 369 of the My Digital Farmer podcast. I'm your host, Corinna Bench, one of the farmers at Shared Legacy Farms out in Elmore, Ohio. I'm also the founder of mydigitalfarmer.com, which is all about trying to help other farmers like you get more confident in your marketing and sales strategy so that you can also grow a profitable farm business. How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to the show. Big shout out to all of my regular listeners, my farmers. I'm glad you're here. I know you are in the thick of it right now. Wow, I hope your season's going well. And I wish you lots and lots of profit, lots and lots of revenue, more leads, more brand awareness. I'm thinking about you guys. If you're new to the podcast, I'm glad you're here today. Make sure you subscribe to the show and go check out my first 10 episodes. I always tell newbies to do that because they were designed long ago for the future audience in mind to be an on-ramp into the marketing lingo. We talk about a lot of stuff on the archives of this podcast, and it helps to kind of learn the basics and the framework. That's what's in the first 10 episodes. You can also get onto my email list. When you do, I'm going to walk you through kind of like a crash course in marketing over the course of several months. You'll get a weekly email from me, plus the email that goes out about the podcast. So to get on that, that's free. Just go to mydigitalfarmer.com/subscribe. Today's podcast is sponsored by my friends at Local Line. If you run a CSA, sell direct or wholesale, or manage all three, summer is when it all happens at once. Packed markets, weekly CSA boxes, and a harvest that keeps coming. Local Line helps you handle your busiest season with less stress and more control. In 2025, farms and food hubs using Local Line grew their sales by 33%, with average order values up 31%. That's real results across operations of all sizes on the platform. Local Line brings everything together in one platform: CSA management, wholesale ordering, automated inventory, box builder, and POS. Run all your direct channels from the same place, whether that's your CSA, market sales, a farm stop, or a food hub. And through their marketplace partnerships now, you can reach chefs and buyers nationwide through Cisco, Gordon Food Service, and US Foods with a low barrier to entry. Switching is easy too. There are no setup fees, no sales commissions, and their team will migrate your storefront for free even mid-season, and it only takes a few days. As a podcast listener, you'll get one premium feature free for a full year when you use my coupon code MDF2026 at checkout. So head to mydigitalfarmer.com/local line, all one word, and then enter that coupon code MDF2026 at checkout. Make the most of peak season with Local Line. It's streamlined, it's efficient, and it's built for growth. And now back to the show. Well, I just got finished tracking my stats from the sales in our online store over the last month, and that got me thinking about metrics and how important it is for us as business owners to know our numbers. I'm not convinced that all of you are looking at the numbers on a regular basis, or are looking at the right numbers, or maybe even just know how to look at the numbers so that you can make good farm decisions. And so today we're going to talk about a marketing metric that I think a lot of small farms are probably not tracking yet. And I get why. When I say words like marketing metrics, I can just feel half of you starting to glaze over. You're thinking, Corinna, please don't make me build another spreadsheet. But stay with me because this one's different. The metric I'm going to talk about today answers one of the most important questions in your farm business, and that is, what is a lead actually worth? Not what did it cost you? That's cost per lead. Not how many email subscribers did you get out of it? Not how many people clicked on the ad, but what is a lead actually worth to your farm? And that metric is called EPL, earnings per lead. And I've talked about it before on a previous podcast, but I want to revisit it because it is such an important concept, and I really want to challenge you to start tracking it. So this episode is going to be a little bit longer than normal, and I am going to be throwing a lot of numbers at you, giving you a lot of examples and case studies from different kinds of businesses, and I hope that you'll stick with me. I hope that you'll start to see the pattern as I give you each example case by case. And by the end of the episode, that you'll kind of understand what EPL is, why it's such a powerful metric, and how it can help you make very specific kinds of decisions. So I just really encourage you to stay with me, even if maybe you're not a numbers person yet. I want to convince you to become one by the time we're done. Um, one of the problems is that farmers, I think, are obsessing over the wrong number when it comes to leads. If you even are running ads to collect email subscribers, which I have a feeling many of you aren't doing that yet. But for farmers who do, when they run ads or collect email subscribers, they focus on cost per lead. How much did it cost me to acquire that one lead? So they'll say, oh, my Facebook ad or my Instagram ad is getting leads for $3, or my leads used to cost $2 and now they're costing me $8. And they'll immediately assume that cheaper is better. But I want to make the case today, and I think you're going to see it real quickly, that cheaper is not always better. So let me just give you an example. Let's just say farmer A gets leads for $2 each. You're actually running ads, and you're getting them for $2 each. Farmer B is getting leads for $8 each. Who's doing better? And most people would say, oh, well, farmer A is clearly doing better. But what if farmer A's leads that he got for $2 each never buys? And farmer B's leads become CSA members or meat bundle customers or bouquet subscribers or weekly online store shoppers or all of the above. Now that $8 lead might be dramatically more valuable than the $2 lead. Are you seeing that? So the cost per lead is only telling you what you paid to acquire that lead. It does not tell you what you got. And that's why we need to learn about EPL. That's why we actually need to be tracking that. So what is EPL? I'm going to try to explain this a little better. So EPL stands for earnings per lead. And there's a simple formula to calculate it. Go write this down. It's the revenue that you generate within the campaign container divided by the number of leads that you acquired. Revenue generated divided by the number of leads. That's your earnings per lead. So if you collected 100 leads during a certain period of time, let's say for 2 weeks before you ran a big promo, okay, and then those leads got the promo push and they generated $5,000 in revenue, your EPL would be 5,000, the total revenue generated, divided by those 100 leads that you got, and it would be $50. The EPL would be $50. So what that means is that each lead is worth $50 in revenue. Not each customer each lead. And that might confuse you at first. I know it did when I first learned this because I'm like, well, why would I care what a lead is worth if a lead didn't buy anything? That doesn't make sense. No, this distinction matters because you're right. Most of your leads won't buy, but the ones who do buy create enough revenue to give value to the whole group. So the higher your EPL is, that's a sign that your business is doing really, really well. The lower it is, that means you've got some work to do. So I'm going to give you a ton of examples this episode. Don't worry. Let me start out with a CSA example because that's the sandbox that I play in. Let's say that a vegetable farm runs a Facebook lead ad for a free guide. I have one like 6 questions to ask before joining a CSA. I don't actually run a lead ad for that, but let's just say that I did, okay? And let's just say the ad generates 100 new email subscribers. 100 new people download that particular guide. That feels a little high to me for a small farm. I just want to throw that out there, but I'm using this number for the sake of just a nice round number. It's going to be easier for you to see it, okay? So let's just say the ad generated 100 new email subscribers. Those subscribers were then put through an email promotion sequence, either, during a launch period or an automated promotion email sequence that you've written. Okay. And at the end of that sequence, we go and we count how many of those 100 people actually ended up buying. And let's just say 8 people bought a CSA share. That's 8 out of 100. Okay. You tracking? If the average order value of the CSA product suite when you ran the campaign was $700, let's just say that there was only one thing they could buy. It was a CSA share for $700. 8 people buy it. So 8 buyers times that $700, that equals $5,600 in revenue. Now to find your EPL, you're going to divide that $5,600 by the 100 leads, and it comes to $56. So the EPL would be $56. In other words, every lead from that campaign was worth $56 in revenue. If you tried to scale that campaign, you'd probably see similar percentages in results, right? So $56 is your EPL. Now you might be saying, okay, so what? Who cares about this number? What does that number tell me? And this is where it gets really powerful. I'm just going to keep repeating more and more examples and the same principle. You're going to start to see it, I promise. Okay. So let's just say that when you ran that Facebook ad to get those 100 leads, it cost you $3 each. So you spent $300 to get those 100 leads. But those leads generated $5,600 in CSA revenue. And that becomes a very different story than simply saying my lead cost was $3. Instead, you can now say, I paid $3 for something that was worth $56. Are you seeing this little aha moment? So why is knowing your EPL so powerful? I'm going to run through a quick list here, and hopefully I'll just keep unpacking it as we go through the episode. So EPL high level is going to help you answer questions. When you know this number, it's going to help you answer questions like, can I afford to spend more on ads? Or which lead magnet is attracting buyers instead of browsers? Because you'll get different EPLs for different lead magnets. Which lead source is producing the highest value customer? Which lead source is giving me the highest EPL? Should I keep promoting this freebie or is it a dud? Should I run this campaign again? Is it working well? Should I scale it? How much can I spend to acquire a lead and still make money? And I would argue that a lot of us farmers are initially, when we're starting our businesses, we're just making these decisions based on gut feeling. But what's great about EPL is that it gives you data. It gives you confidence. It tells you whether your lead generation machine is actually producing revenue. Okay, so I know some of you are asking, wait, Corinna, what if I don't run ads? Like, what if I'm not even like investing in Facebook? I'm not trying to get new leads. And at this point, I would say, okay, that's all right. You don't have to run Facebook ads. I would really encourage you at some point to consider doing it when you um, have the resources to generate more leads. But EPL is not really an advertising metric. It's a lead quality metric. What do I mean by that? So every farm generates leads. You're generating leads right now. Not just farms running ads, okay? Maybe your leads are coming from a farmer's market sign-up sheet or a QR code that you have in an event, maybe a farm tour, a workshop, a referral. I know that's a big one for us. Maybe you have a pop-up on your website, or trying to think like the county fair, if you have a booth or some kind of an event that you go to in the community, right? These are all lead sources. Some of them you pay for, some of them you don't. And EPL is going to help answer the same question no matter where the lead comes from. Do these people eventually become customers? So for example, let's say you collect 100 email addresses at the farmer's market over the course of a season with just your little market sign-up sheet and clipboard, okay? And then a year later, you track and you look and you see those people have generated $6,000 in sales, those specific 100 people. Now, they didn't all buy, but a portion of them did. And when you spread that out among the 100 email addresses that you collected, your EPL is $60. Now, compare that number to another lead source. So maybe you hosted a farm tour and you got 50 emails at that farm tour. And 1 year later, you tracked those 50 people and you've noticed that they generated collectively $5,000 in sales. Your EPL for the farm tours is $100. Now you know something important. The farm tour produced fewer leads, but those leads were more valuable. They ended up spending more. Do you see this? This is why I love tracking EPL, because it helps you stop asking, where am I getting the most leads? That's not always the question that should be driving our decisions. We start asking, where am I getting the best leads? Because not all leads are created equal. And I know some of you know that already, but EPL just really points that out to you if we're tracking all the different sources. So what is a good EPL? This is a logical next question. And my answer is, it depends. I know, annoying answer. But it's true. A flower farmer who's selling a $35 bouquet workshop ticket is going to have a different EPL than a meat farmer who's selling freezer beef. You just are. And a CSA farmer selling a $700 share is going to have a different EPL than a farm store that's selling $45 AOV weekly orders. So you don't want to ask what's a good EPL. You want to ask, how does my EPL, my earnings per lead, compare to my cost per lead? This is what you need to be comparing. So if your EPL is $50 and your cost per lead is $5, that's really strong. If your EPL is $50 and your cost per lead is $45, that's probably too tight. A simple rule of thumb is that you want to try to keep your cost per lead under 25% of your EPL. So if your EPL in that one example is $56, then a target cost per lead might be around $14 or less. That gives you some room for attributing it imperfectly, or refunds, or admin time, profit margin. Now, could you spend more than that? Could you spend more than $14? Yes. Right? If you are in an aggressive growth mode, you might spend up to 50% of your EPL, like $28 per lead. But most farms should start a little bit more conservatively, I think. And we definitely don't want to spend more than our earnings per lead, because then we're losing money. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the measurement container. When we're measuring EPL, we're also thinking about what's the container I'm putting this measurement around, or what's the container in which I am measuring. And there are 3 levels of EPL that I want to make you aware of. 3 different ways that you could calculate it. Number 1, level 1 is just the transactional EPL. This is just measuring the first sale only, the first thing that a brand new customer buys, and that's the EPL you're measuring. So for example, 100 leads come in either through a Facebook ad or through another source that didn't cost you money, okay? And you have some sort of a first offer that you present to them. Let's just say it was a coupon code for their first purchase. And 20 of those people, 20 of those 100 leads buy using that coupon. So you're able to track. You see the coupon code and you're like, oh, that's only from that one campaign. So I know it's those people. And let's just say that the average order value, because you can compute that too, right? Your average order value was about $75. So you can do the math, and $75 times 20, that's $1,500. You're going to take $1,500, divide it by that 100 leads, and you're going to get an EPL of 15 bucks. So this tells you, what did these leads generate on the first farm purchase? That, I think, is the easiest version of EPL to calculate. I think it's a helpful place to start if you aren't measuring EPL yet. Like, that's a really easy container to start with. You just find your gateway offer, or you find a very specific campaign that you recently did, okay? But level 1, if that's all you ever measure, it often understates the value of the lead. And let me show you why. There's like a level 2, and this is where you measure the 12-month EPL. This measures what those leads generate over an entire year. So they join your list, and then 12 months later, we're measuring. Okay, so the container that we're measuring isn't just this small, 2 to 3 week window, which is the amount of time a person typically passes through and takes the first offer. Now we're measuring a full year. And this is the one I recommend that most farms start tracking, because the first sale is not the whole story, is it? If you've been in business long enough, you know that people come back and they buy again. A meat customer might buy a small bundle first. They're going to come back, let's say, 3 more times. Or a flower customer might start with that Mother's Day bouquet, but then they join the bouquet subscription, or they come back to the stand and they buy 6 more times that season. Or a CSA prospect might not buy the first time that you pitch that offer, but they might buy later in the year when you promote it again. So a 12-month EPL is asking, what did this group of leads generate over the entire next year? And that is so much more useful. You're seeing the customer value in 1 year, and usually the EPL is higher. If it isn't, well, that's saying something about the number of offers you're presenting, how many things you're selling in your product suite. We'll get to that more in a little bit. And then finally, there's like a third tier. There's the lifetime customer value, like the lifetime EPL. And this is measuring the full lifetime value of the leads. So if a customer stays with you for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, their value is obviously going to be much higher. And this is a really powerful metric, but it's much harder to calculate. So I'm just making you aware of the fact that there is a lifetime EPL, that you should count on your customers who come in, who turn into leads and start buying, that they will become more and more profitable to you over time, right? But we don't want to start here. Don't try to calculate the lifetime EPL. Just start with first purchase EPL or a 12-month EPL when I give you your homework assignment later, okay? This is where I want you to start. So who counts as a lead? This really confused me, and so I wanted to spend an entire section. I have a little note here in my outline to make sure I talk about this. This can be confusing. When we're talking about earnings per lead, a lead is usually someone who newly enters your world during the campaign or time period that you are measuring. Okay? So if you are measuring a Facebook lead ad campaign, then the leads are only the people who opted in from that ad. If you are measuring a farm tour sign up campaign, then the leads are the new people who signed up for the tour, not people who were, I don't know, somehow already on your list and signed up for the tour. So if you are measuring your whole spring list building season, multiple months, then the leads are all the new people who joined your list during that season. But your existing email list doesn't usually count as new leads for that campaign. When we do that formulation, use the formula and calculate. They are already in your ecosystem. They have value, but they are not newly acquired leads. And this is just important for attribution. Okay, I just want to point that out because I used to do this wrong and I used to include all the people that I would send a campaign promotion to uh, as like in that number of new leads, and people that were already on my list, they shouldn't be counted in that calculation. Now, let's talk about organic leads. Can organic leads count? The answer is yes, but only if you are clear about what question you're asking. So if you want to know, how did my Facebook lead ad perform? Then you don't want to lump in the organic leads. You want to keep Facebook separate. But if you want to know, what is a new lead worth to my farm overall, then yeah, you can calculate a blended EPL. You could pull in those leads that you got organically. So for example, let's say you got 100 Facebook ad leads and you got 50 website leads through your pop-up, and you got 30 farmers market leads just on your little clipboard. And I don't know, 20 referral leads. That's another common one for us. That's 200 new leads total, but you only paid for one of those things, right? You only had the Facebook ads where you were paying. So if those 200 new leads collectively generated $10,000 in revenue, you would have a blended EPL of $50. And that's a really helpful metric. I mean, I like to know the EPL sometimes of my specific sources, but it's also nice to know the blended EPL. That tells you across all lead sources, a new lead is worth about $50 to my farm. But I would still be tagging the source. Blended EPL is really useful for budgeting, but source-specific EPL is really useful when it comes to making decisions. Okay, so we're going to dive more deeply into this, so hang with me. Let's talk about this source-specific EPL. I'm going to give you some examples here. Imagine you have like a table, a little spreadsheet, okay? And it has a column for the source of the lead and the EPL amount. So Facebook ad leads, it says EPL $35. Farmers market QR code leads, your EPL is $75. Maybe your referral leads, you find out your EPL is $120. Your Instagram leads are giving you an EPL of $18, and your website pop-up is giving you an EPL of $40. Okay, do you see the dramatic difference in numbers there? You can make some smarter decisions because maybe Instagram is bringing in lots of leads, but they're not buying. Or maybe the farmers market leads are fewer, but man, at $75, they convert beautifully. And your referrals, they are gold. So you stop asking yourself, where did I get the most leads? That's not always the best question. You start asking instead, where did I get the most valuable leads? And the only way you're going to know that is if you're measuring EPL. Am I making a good case for why you should start practicing measuring this? I hope so. Now, I know a lot of you are asking, okay, how do I do this? What's the technical setup? And I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. And this is where I'm really worried that you guys are going to your eyes are going to bug out and you're going to tune out and be like, well, I can't see this. You may have to listen to this a couple times, or later on when you go back and you sit down and you actually try to put the tech together or write it down, you'll create your little workflow. You do not need to have fancy software. I want to reiterate that, but you do need to have tags, which means you're going to have an email service provider that allows you to tag. Every lead source should get a tag in your email platform. So when you create these different opt-in forms where people can go and become a member of your list, you're doing that in your email service provider, okay? And there's lots of good ones. I love Kit. That's the one I've landed on. Drip is another one that I see farmers using. Obviously, MailChimp is probably the most popular one, but a lot of farmers are trying to get away with just doing the free version, and that's not going to allow you to do some of this cool, savvy stuff that I'm talking about here. You'll have to upgrade to the paid version. Um, what else is there? There's another one that I like. Active Campaign is another one that I recommend too. Um, in your email platform, every lead source is going to get a tag. So, for example, if you have a lead magnet like a CSA guide and you are going to promote that on Facebook as a lead ad, then you would have a tag that's called Lead Source Facebook CSA Guide. Well, you can name it whatever you want, but that would be an example of how I would name it. If you have a website pop-up that's promoting maybe even the same exact thing, it could be the CSA Guide, you would create another form for that, a duplicate form. So it'll have a different URL that people get taken to when they subscribe. And when they subscribe to that form, they'll get tagged with a different tag that will say something like lead source website pop-up. You could have a tag for lead source farmers market QR code, lead source farm tour, whatever, lead source Instagram bio link. The point is that when someone opts in, they're going to get tagged based on where they came from. This means that in some cases, you will have to make multiple versions of the same subscribe form so that they each have their own individual URLs that are linked up to the different places where people find them. And then you're going to create a rule in your email service provider that says, hey, when someone subscribes to this form, add this tag, lead source website pop-up. Okay, so when someone opts in, they're going to get tagged based on where they come from. And then when someone eventually buys, you'll need a way to connect that purchase back to their email address. So this is most likely going to happen through your online store or your e-commerce platform or a Zapier connection, if you guys are using Zapier yet. It could be a manual tag that you go and apply after purchase if you're not doing things digitally. Maybe it's a Google Sheet export, so you're able to download all the customers that bought something, and then you manually upload that CSV file into your email service provider and apply the tag that way, right? So it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need, like, I don't know, enough data to be directionally accurate. If you can look at just 100 people who came in from a specific lead magnet and see how many of them eventually bought and took you up on the offer, you have enough to make a better decision. Today's podcast is sponsored by Farm Marketing School, my monthly membership for farmers. Before we dive back into the episode, I want to speak to a very specific kind of farmer for a second. If you're a year or two into your business and things are working, but your marketing still feels kind of scattered, like you're posting, you're sending some emails, you're running promotions, but it all feels disconnected and you're not sure what's actually driving sales. I just want to say that's not a lack of effort. That's just a lack of structure. Because most farmers don't need more ideas. What they need is a system that connects everything together. And that's exactly why I built Farm Marketing School. Inside, I teach you how to actually design your marketing so that it works like a machine, a system, not a bunch of random tactics. We map out your full customer journey. We build your email engine. We create intentional promotions and product pathways. So your marketing starts handing off from one piece to the next like a relay race instead of you running every leg yourself. And we do it through 30-day project builds. So you're not just learning about marketing, you're actually finishing things. You're actually building the marketing assets in your marketing machine, your sales funnel, your promotions, your lead magnet, your weekly email rhythm, all your marketing assets. And that's when the shift happens. Marketing starts to feel lighter. The flywheel starts to spin. Sales start to feel more predictable. And you finally feel like, okay, I'm on the right track. I know what I'm doing. If that's what you've been longing for and what you've been missing, then I want to invite you to join Farm Marketing School just for a month. Come inside and see what it's all about. You can learn more at mydigitalfarmer.com/FMS. And now back to the show. All right, so let me try to describe a simple tracking workflow. I really want you to see like the step by step for how this plays out. Step one is you are going to create one opt-in form or landing page, whatever you call it, per campaign. So let's just say you have a campaign for your plant sale waitlist, and that takes people to pitching your plant sale. You have a meat freezer guide form that takes them to an offer to buy your freezer meat. Maybe you have a CSA What's in the Box guide on Facebook as an ad, and it will eventually pitch people your CSA membership. Okay, so you create an opt in form for every campaign. Step two is you're going to apply a unique tag when someone opts in. So you will have to go and create those tags before you start advertising this particular opt-in form. And the tag would say something like lead source, meat freezer guide form, website pop-up. And the rule is that when someone subscribes to that form, you got to tell your email service provider as a rule, like add this tag to them automatically when someone subscribes through this specific form. And that tag would say lead source, meat freezer guide, website pop-up. Now you know that these are the people who specifically came through that source where I advertised the meat freezer guide on the one that was on the website. Now, if you're also advertising that same form as a Facebook ad, you'd have to duplicate that opt-in form, make a second one, and create a different rule that says if somebody comes through the Facebook ad through this form, you're going to put the tag, the unique tag that says lead source Facebook meat freezer guide form. Are you tracking here? All right. So that was step two, that you're creating a rule to apply a unique tag when someone opts in. Step three, you've run your promotion, and when the promotion season ends, you're going to export your buyers. Export that CSV file or figure out who were the people who actually bought the product. Step four, you're going to match the buyer emails, the people who bought from that CSV file, against that tagged lead list. And this is where I get help from ChatGPT. So I'll download both of those documents as CSV files and I'll upload them into AI and I'll say, I want you to do the work of analyzing both and tell me who are the people right? Who are the people? And sometimes I'll even be like, tell me what my EPL is. All right. Step 5, you're going to calculate the revenue that was generated by the customers from that lead source. So you're going to identify all the customers who originally came from the lead source that you're evaluating. You're going to add up the revenue generated by those customers during your measurement period. So for example, if you're measuring a CSA lead magnet, you're going to add up the revenue from the customers who originally downloaded that CSA lead magnet. You'll be able to tell who those people are because you've compared those two spreadsheets or you've asked ChatGPT to do it. Okay. If you're measuring a farm tour, you're adding up the revenue that came from customers who originally started out with you by attending the farm tour. If you're measuring a Facebook ads performance, you're going to add up the revenue from all the customers who originally entered your funnel through the Facebook ad. Okay. And then finally, step 6, you're going to divide that revenue by the number of leads from that source. So you got 300 leads from the plant sale waitlist. 45 of those leads became customers, and the revenue generated by those specific 45 customers was $3,600. You're going to take $3,600, divide it by 300, and you'll get your EPL of $12. Now, some of you may be like, well, I can't figure out what the revenue generated by those specific customers was. In that case, you could also just take the average order value of that campaign in general and sort of generalize it. That's another like shortcut way. Okay, so I've got a bunch of case studies that I'm going to go through here to really just show you how we're using this information. Okay, let's use a meat producer. The farm, you sell grass-fed beef, maybe pasture-raised pork and chicken through an online store. And you create a lead magnet called How to Fill Your Freezer Without Wasting Money. The goal is to attract people who are freezer curious, maybe a little nervous. They don't know how much meat to buy. They don't know what cuts they're going to get. They're afraid they're going to spend too much. But after someone downloads the guide, the farm sends an email sequence. And the first gateway offer in this email sequence is use code freezer20 for $20 off or 20% off your first online store order. You get to make up that offer. Okay, let's look at these pretend numbers to help us figure out EPL. The farm gets 300 leads, and the ad spend is $900. So cost per lead is what? $3. Out of those 300 leads, let's just say 45 people place a first order. And you can tell what that average first order is because you run a report and it's about $125. So first order revenue is going to be 45 people times $125. That's $5,625. Stay with me. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you. I'm just trying to show you how this works. So if we were just measuring that level 1 transactional EPL, we would take that $5,625, we would divide it by the 300 leads, and we would get an EPL of $1,875. That's first purchase EPL for specifically the Facebook ad source. Well, that already tells us that the campaign is profitable because they spent $3 a lead and they earned $1,875 a lead. And that's like a 6x difference, right? Now let's look at the 12-month EPL value. Those 45 customers, they come back throughout the year. And let's just say on average that each of those customers places 4 more orders. And the average order value stays at around $125. So here I'm going to do that math again. Okay, so now your annual value per customer is going to be 4 orders times that $125 value. That's $500. So your total annual revenue from those 45 customers is going to be $500 times the 45 customers, which is $22,500. You'll divide that number by those 300 leads that we measured at the beginning to get your 12-month EPL, And that number is $75. So first purchase EPL was $18.75. Now the 12-month EPL is $75. That's a big leap. This changes the way that I think about ads. Are you seeing this? Now a $3 lead is not just good, it's excellent. It's knock it out of the park. Even a $10 lead may be worth testing, right? So what decision does this help the farmer make? You might decide, I can scale this ad. I can test a second lead magnet. I can afford to spend more during peak buying season. I should improve my post-purchase follow-up because repeat orders are driving the real profit. For a meat producer, the money is probably not in the first order. The money is in the repeat purchase behavior. So EPL is going to help you see that the gateway offer is only the beginning of the customer relationship. Okay, let's do a second case study. This is for a flower farmer. A flower farmer might have a lead magnet that gets a person on their list, like 5 ways to make your fresh flowers last longer, or a local flower season guide. I know I see that a lot. Let's just say that your gateway offer, first offer that you're trying to pull them in with, is a $5 off coupon for a farm stand bouquet, or maybe it's a Mother's Day bouquet pre-order. And this, let's just say this flower farmer creates a lead magnet, the local flower season guide, or what blooms when. And they promote it on Instagram, on Facebook. And they also have a QR code out at the winter market that customers can just kind of put their phones over and scan. That doesn't cost anything, right? So 3 places that it's promoted, and they collect a total of 200 new leads. And then a few weeks later, or a month later, they launch a spring bouquet subscription. And maybe it's $120. That's going to be their first offer pitch. And out of those 200 leads, let's just say 20 people decide to buy that subscription. That's a 10% conversion rate. The revenue would be 20 people times $120, which equals $2,400. Your transactional EPL is that total revenue, that $2,400, divided by the total amount of leads you collected, 200 leads. So your EPL for the transaction, the first gateway offer, is $12. And at first, $12 might not seem like a huge number to you. And that's why I like you to look at the 12-month EPL. Okay, so let's look at the 1-year value. Let's just say, if you continue to track, which I hope you will, that of those 20 buyers who got the subscription, 10 of them later buy the Mother's Day bouquets at $45. And 8 of them also buy summer bouquets, averaging a total of $60. And 5 buy a fall centerpiece workshop for $75. And let's just keep it simple. Too late, right? But let's keep it simple. And let's just say the total amount of revenue from those original 20 buyers is $4,500. If we add it all up from the 12 months, we would take that $4,500 divided by the 200 leads that were originally captured in that container of time of 12 months. And that 12-month EPL would be $22.50. That's almost 2x what the transactional EPL was. Now, the flower farmer could compare lead sources. Maybe the Instagram leads had an EPL of $8, but the winter market QR code had an EPL of $45. Why? Because those people already met the farmer. They had smelled the flowers. They had an actual interaction with you. And that might tell you, you could make a deduction from that and say, oh, markets may not generate as many leads, but the leads I get there are high quality. And that is the kind of business decision that might be hiding inside the EPL data. Okay, do you see that? That's why I love EPL. Okay, I have another case study. This is for a CSA farm running ads to a CSA promo. I know a lot of you are doing that. CSA is a harder sell. I just want to put that out there. And I think this matters. A CSA is not usually an impulse buy, or it's not usually a first purchase. I'm speaking from experience here. You're not selling a $15 bouquet or a $40 chicken bundle. You're often asking someone to spend hundreds of dollars. You're asking them to change how they eat for 20 weeks. So if you run a Facebook ad that says join our CSA to a cold audience, it may not convert well, but that doesn't mean ads don't work. It means that the offer may be too big for a cold lead. So maybe a CSA farm might run a lead magnet offer first as an ad. So for example, what's in a CSA box, or the Busy Family's Guide to Eating More Local Vegetables, or is CSA right for you? 6 questions to ask before you join. Those are examples of lead magnets you might create. And you could actually run a Facebook ad to one of those lead magnets, like what's in the CSA box. Just see how it does. And let's just say this is very ambitious, but again, I'm just trying to find easy numbers. Let's say that you actually collect 500 leads from that Facebook ad. And you spent $5 a lead. So you spent $2,500 on that ad. You got 500 leads. The cost per lead is $5. Then after you've done that, you send out an email nurture sequence. And after that, you launch, after they've sort of been warmed up to you and you've given a lot of information away for free and they know who you are, then you launch CSA enrollment. You actually have a pitch sequence that you send to those 500 leads. And out of those 500 leads, 30 people end up buying. That's not a huge conversion rate, but 30 people buy, average order value $700. So your revenue is going to be 30 times 700. That's going to give you a $21,000 revenue. Your EPL is going to end up being $42. You're going to take that $21,000, divide it by the 500 leads you acquired, and you'll get $42. That's telling you that each of those leads, when you divide that all out among all the leads, each lead is worth $42 to you. Now, compare cost per lead, $5, earnings per lead, $42. That is a healthy campaign. And when you know that, that's just going to give you confidence that you're doing okay. And this is totally worth continuing to do. Now let's go one step deeper. If 20 of those 30 customers renew the next year, so that's like 60%, or 2/3 of them. That's about average, I'd say. That's going to add 20 times $700, which is another $14,000. So now the total revenue from that lead cohort is the original $21,000 plus the $14,000. So you have a revenue of $35,000. Your 2-year EPL divided by 500 leads equals $70. So your EPL went from 42 to 70 in 1 year. This matters because CSA, we're always asking the retention question. If your members are renewing, your lead value goes way up. So if a CSA farmer who's only looking at first-year revenue may be underestimating what they can afford to spend to acquire a lead, because a lot of times 2/3 of those customers stay with you for a long time, and you're actually going to make a lot more money off of them in the long run. So what does the EPL help a CSA farmer decide? It might tell them, yes, I can afford to keep running this lead magnet. No, I should not send cold traffic directly to a CSA sales page. My What's in a Box lead magnet is producing better buyers than my generic newsletter sign up. Or my CSA guide leads are worth $42, but my farm tour leads are worth $95. Right? So that last one is huge. If you discover that farm tour leads, if you do those, are worth more, then maybe you should promote farm tours more aggressively, right? So EPL begins to tell you where to put your marketing energy. Okay, I have one more example because I know a lot of you use an online store. So let's just say that you just want more online store shoppers. You could be a mixed vegetable farm, you could be a meat farm, flower farm, diversified farm. Your goal is to get people into a weekly buying habit. So you could have a lead magnet like the local food shopping guide, or a coupon code like get $10 off your first online store order, or join the produce availability list. And your gateway offer could be as simple as place your first online store order. You could give them a coupon code or not. And let's just say that you collect 400 new leads during the spring season. And some are coming from Facebook ads that you ran, some are coming organically through the website, some are coming from a QR code at your pickup at the market, some are coming from referrals. And you are tagging each source. You are sending a weekly store email to these people. And over 60 days, over 2 months, 80 of those 400 leads place an order. That's a little under 25%. You can calculate from your e-commerce provider what the average order value is in that 60-day period by running a report. So let's say the average order value is $55. Your first order revenue would be those 80 people times the $55. You'd have $4,400. That would give you a transaction EPL of $11. You're taking that $4,400, you're dividing it by the 400 leads that you acquired to get that $11. But if you look at the 12-month EPL, I'm almost certain that many of those customers will continue to come back and buy again. So let's just say that those 80 customers average 6 orders a year and the same AOV of $55. When you do the math, your 12-month EPL goes to $66. It jumps from $11 to $66 in 12 months. So the first order, that's like a big aha, I hope, for you. The first order is not the goal, the habit is the goal. This is why it's so important when you're building strategy as a marketer. Like for this kind of model, you are trying to get the online customer to come back every week, every other week, creating a buying habit, pulling that order frequency lever. Because if someone becomes a repeat shopper, the value of the lead climbs dramatically. And so you might realize I should stop judging my campaign by the first coupon redemption, right? Maybe I should be measuring how many of these people are becoming repeat buyers. Frequency is the multiplier. All right. I'm not sure I want to do this section. Well, I'm going to. It's going to make the episode a little longer, but it makes a point. I wanted to use the example of my plant sale because when I promoted my plant sale, I had my old list of people that I've always pitched the offer to who have bought before. And then I've got my new leads that have come in through some different strategies I was using in the weeks prior to the plant sale promotion. So let's just talk about this example because attribution gets tricky here, and I want to just show you what you got to do. Let's just say that you have an email list of 4,000 people, and 2 weeks before the plant sale promotion is scheduled to start, you start talking about a lead magnet. You're like, hey, get on my plant sale catalog list. That's the only way you're going to find out about what's available. I mean, that's what I started to do. Or maybe you have a garden planning guide and you're just starting to pitch it and you're collecting leads. Let's say you collect 300 new leads from that work you're doing on social media, or maybe you have a pop-up on your website, or you actually run an ad. Okay. Once that's done, the 2 weeks are up, it's time to start promoting your offer. The farm sends the plant sale promotional launch emails to everyone. The 4,000 people from before, that were on your list, plus those extra 300 you just gathered. Okay, so all of them, 4,300 people total. And the sale generates $25,000. Here is the mistake. This is what I used to do not divide $25,000 by 300 new leads, because the old list helped generate that revenue too. Those existing subscribers were already there. They are not new leads from this plant sale campaign. Instead, you want to tag the 300 new people with a very specific tag of lead source, plant sale preview 2027, or give the date that they come in. And then after the sale, you can go back and ask, well, how many of those 300 tagged people who came in as new leads actually ended up buying? You run the reports so you can figure that out. And let's just say that you have 300 new leads and 45 of them ended up purchasing something. And you know what the average order value was of the plant sale. Let's just say it was $80. So you can do the math. 45 times 80, $3,600 is your total revenue number that you're looking at for your calculation. So the EPL for the new plant sale leads would be $12. You're going to take that 3,600 divided by 300. That is the campaign EPL. The rest of the $25,000 came from your existing list, and that's still valuable, but it's answering a different question. The new lead EPL answers, was it worth building this plant sale preview list? The full list revenue answers, how successful was the plant sale launch overall? So we just want to make sure you know that you're doing the measurements, you're measuring EPL of different groupings based on what question you're asking. Now, old leads still matter, but they belong in a different metric. So if someone joined your list 3 years ago and they bought during this plant sale, they are not a new lead for the plant sale campaign. They are an existing subscriber who converted on that offer. And you can absolutely track revenue from existing subscribers. You might call that existing list revenue. Or email list revenue, but don't lump the old leads into the new lead EPL calculation, because if you do, your EPL is going to get really muddy and you won't know whether your new lead campaign, that campaign that you put at the beginning to try and grow the list, you're not going to know if it worked. Now let's talk about something called attribution. There's first touch and last touch attribution. Attribution is just a really fancy word in the marketing world for who gets credit for the sale. And there are two simple types that I think you should understand as a farmer. There's first touch attribution and last touch. First touch attribution is asking, how did this person first enter my world? And last touch attribution asks, what was the trigger that finally made them buy? And they're not always the same thing. In fact, they usually aren't. So for example, someone downloads your CSA guide from a Facebook ad in, January, and they read your emails for 3 months. And maybe they come to a farm tour in early May, and then they buy the CSA after your final enrollment email. Which of those should get the credit? Should it be Facebook, the CSA guide, the farm tour, or that final email? And the answer is they all played a role, right? They all passed the baton to the next one. They were all critical. This is why I say it's so important to build a marketing machine. You've got to have systems, different players who are each carrying a different part, a different baton in the relay. But for the sake of EPL, I like first touch attribution because we're trying to understand the value of the lead source. We want to know, was that Facebook lead worth acquiring in the first place? So always keep the original source tag on your subscribers, because then later when they buy, you can say, oh, this customer originally came from the CSA Guide Facebook ad. And that doesn't mean that Facebook did all the selling. It means the Facebook ad brought them into your world. And your emails, your stories, your social media, your offers, your free content, your trust building, it did the rest. It was all important. Okay, let's talk simple tech setup so that we can attribute things properly, and then we're going to wrap up, okay, if you're still with me. Here's what you need. Number one, you need a unique opt-in form or landing page for every lead source. So try not to send everyone from all the different sources to the same generic form if you can avoid it. I would encourage you to create separate forms. CSA guide, Facebook ad. CSA guide, website pop-up. CSA guide, Instagram bio. CSA guide, farmer's market QR code. Same lead magnet. You can have the same copy. They're just different forms with different links that you're sharing, okay? And different rules that trigger when someone subscribes to them. The rule would be add the tag CSA guide Facebook ad, add the tag CSA guide website pop-up, right? Why? Because each form can apply a different tag. So that's the first thing. Number two, you're going to create a source tag. So make a tag inside your email provider for each of the sources. Label them with a naming convention so it's easy to spot where they came from. So something like source dash Facebook ad, source dash website organic, source dash Instagram. Got it? And then you're going to create a rule in your email provider that says when a person subscribes to that particular form, add this specific tag, source Facebook ad, or whatever it is. And there has to be alignment. Okay, so you have your unique opt-in form, you have your source tags. You also should create a campaign tag. This is a tag you're going to add to all the people that you are going to send the promotional emails to, whether it's an automated email sequence or it's a live broadcast like launch type of series. So an example would be if you have a plant sale campaign, you're going to name that campaign Plant Sale 2027. And or it could be like pitch Plant Sale 2027 or inside the pitch or campaign Plant Sale 2027. Name it something so it's clear to you that this person is to be sent the offer for the plant sale, or this person got pitched the offer of the plant sale. The fourth thing you need to create is a buyer tag. So this is only applied to people when they actually purchase the offer that you pitch them. Examples of a buyer tag might be customer-plant sale 2027, customer-meatbox, customer-2027 CSA. Okay. Create a naming convention so that it's easy for you to remember what that tag means. And then finally, you need to have a way to match the buyers back to the leads. So this could be something that's automated through your e-commerce platform and your email platform, or it could be done manually. You could export. I keep saying export. You can export your buyers into a spreadsheet, run a report, and then you would then export your tagged leads into a spreadsheet and then match them by email address. Which of those people have both tags? Which of them have that tagged lead and which of them have that tag as a buyer? Now, I like to use ChatGPT. I'll do the work of downloading those uh, reports and spreadsheets, and then I'll upload them into ChatGPT and I'll ask it to do the work of finding the matches for me. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be good enough for you to see the pattern. Okay. All right. So that's sort of the tech setup. I hope that kind of shows you what you can do. I want to finish off by talking about the metrics that you should be reviewing alongside EPL. I mean, EPL is a great number to just look at. It's now that you kind of know what it is, it'll be helpful, but it's really powerful when you don't look at it alone. Look at it in comparison to your cost per lead, your conversion rate, your average order value, your revenue, your ad spend, your profit margin, and your retention, even your purchase frequency, I would argue. So let me translate all of those. Your cost per lead tells you what you paid for the lead. The conversion rate tells you what percentage of the people bought. The average order value tells you how much the average person spent per order. The frequency tells you whether they came back and how many times they came back. And you can determine that by taking the number of orders divided by the customers. Your retention tells you whether they stayed. And your EPL will tell you whether the whole system produced revenue or not. And that's why I think EPL is kind of like a summary score for me. It rolls up a lot of the marketing behavior into one number. So if your EPL is low, you can investigate why. Maybe the lead magnet's attracting the wrong person. Maybe the offer is weak. It's the wrong first offer. Maybe the email sequence isn't converting and you can go and tweak the email sequence. Maybe the AOV is too low. Maybe you notice that customers are only buying once and never come back. That's a problem. Why is that? Do you not have a second offer? EPL tells you that there's a problem. And then the other metrics, when you're comparing it against EPL, they help you diagnose the problem. And I just want to remind you that a good EPL is not a universal dollar amount. It's one that's meaningfully higher than your cost per lead. You're trying to get it like 4 times higher than your cost per lead. That's the goal. If it's higher than that, then you're crushing it. If your EPL is like 1.5 times higher than your cost per lead, then you need to be careful. Okay, so how can farmers use EPL to make decisions? I'm just going to run through a bunch of observations here, different ways that you can take this data, because to me, this is where it gets really concrete. EPL will help you decide, should I keep running this ad? Can I afford to increase my ad budget? Like, what if you could scale and keep getting the same results? Which lead magnet should I promote? Which audience should I target? Should I send traffic to a free guide, a coupon, a wait list? Which lead sources are creating buyers? Should I improve my first offer? Should I focus on repeat purchases? Should I stop chasing cheap leads and start chasing better leads? That last one is a big one. Expensive leads are not always bad leads, my friends. The question is, do they buy? Do they come back? Do they become valuable customers over time? So here's what I want you to remember. Cost per lead tells you what you paid to acquire the lead at the beginning, but earnings per lead tells you what you earned. So one is measuring an expense, the other is measuring the value of the lead. And once you know the value of your leads, you stop making marketing decisions from fear. You stop saying, I can't spend $8 on a lead. And you start saying, if this lead is worth $75 over the next year, and that's what my data is showing me, I can afford to acquire more of them. That's a totally different mindset. It's so freeing. So your homework, I have homework for you. It's really simple. I want you to pick one lead source. Maybe it's your CSA guide or your produce availability list or your online store pop-up. Maybe you have a farm tour sign-up form. And I want you to tag the leads that come in to that one lead source. Go and set up the text so that they start getting tagged. Then, after you run your next sales campaign, go back and look at the data and ask yourself, how many leads came in? How many bought? How much revenue did they generate? And see if you can figure out and compute your EPL. And what does that number tell you? It becomes the baseline. It becomes the baseline. I take that EPL data, I measure it after all of my major promotions and campaigns, and I put it in my master Google Doc for that campaign. And it becomes part of the data set. And then the next year, when I run that campaign again, I go back and look at the master Google Doc and I copy and paste. I just basically rinse and repeat it. But I can go and see, here's the baseline. This is what the EPL was. This is what the number that I can expect. This is the number I'm trying to beat. If I see it dropping, then I want to ask a question, why, right? So whatever the EPL is what it is. So there's no like shaming you if you don't love the number. Remember, EPL grows over time, but it becomes a good data point for you to fix your eyes on. And now you know how to start improving. Now you know to measure it again later, and you can compare it to something and say, am I getting better? Like, am I getting better at my marketing? My friends, I want you to start becoming data-driven business owners. And EPL is definitely a metric, one of the top metrics that you should be measuring. It's a little confusing at first to understand how to do it, but I hope this deep dive gave you enough examples to see how it could work in different permutations of farms, okay? The goal is not more leads. The goal is more of the right leads, the ones who buy, the ones who come back, the ones who become part of your farm's long-term customer base. And that is what EPL will help you measure. All right, that's all I got today. If you enjoyed this episode, if this just blew your mind and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to share this with someone, would you just go scrape the URL, the link for this episode, text it to a friend, another farmer, and say, you need to listen to this. This was really provocative. This got me thinking. I would love it if you would do that. So share this episode with a friend. Go leave me a rating or a review for this podcast. If you want to dive deeper into this kind of stuff, come into farm marketing school this summer or later on in the fall, and we'll be doing the work of calculating the EPL metric together on a small scale. We'll put a container around it so it's not overwhelming and just get practice playing with the numbers. I'm here to help you get comfortable with this kind of stuff. It's normal for it to feel uncomfortable. It's like putting on a new set of clothes. You're just not quite sure how it works yet, right? And so that's okay. You're supposed to feel that way. And eventually you do it over and over and over again and it starts to feel normal. I'd love to have you inside my community and be coaching you while you're in the thick of your season, helping you troubleshoot. Today's show notes can be found at mydigitalfarmer.com/369. If you want to get onto my email list, I have a lot of really good free marketing materials to send you to make your marketing better, to help you feel more confident in your marketing. You don't have to come into farm marketing school to learn from me. You can learn from me on my free stuff. So get on my email list, mydigitalfarmer.com/subscribe. If you want to go really deep, or you want to accelerate the growth and really get into the weeds of building the system with me, that's when you can come into farm marketing school and build the machine. That is at mydigitalfarmer.com/FMS. It's a monthly membership. You subscribe month by month. You can cancel after your first month, come back in later. It's all there and it continues to grow. I keep adding new projects and I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. I believe in you. Have an amazing week and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.